think I mentioned last time in my talk that consular affairs in the United States is fee funded. So that means when there's no visas being processed, no money is coming in. That meant that we were unable for quite a long time to recruit new staff and new officers and new local staff to process visas. So now we are back, but we have a lot of staffing gaps. So we're trying, and this is a global problem. All consular sections for the United States around the world are in the same, are facing the same challenge. So we are trying to do our best to review our processes and to add efficiencies and to fill those empty spots that we have so that we can address the backlog and get everybody processed as we did before. However, this is going to take a while, so please be patient with us. And today we will give you some tips and hints for travel. If you have urgent travel, for sure we can help you. So this is maybe a good place to start. Maybe one of you can explain a little bit about our expedited appointments.
Absolutely, thanks Daniela. So one way, if you have a current visa appointment and you need to travel urgently, you can submit a request for an expedited appointment through the appointment website. We typically have an officer review all of those expedite requests, and we look for people who have urgent business travel, student needs, urgent medical travel, other urgent medical or urgent travel needs. And then, Kristen, if you want to talk about a bit about the mail-in application process.
So for those of you who do not want to come in for an interview, you may be eligible to apply for our interview waiver program. There are some people who will generally always be able to do that, children who are under 14, and adults who are over the age of 79, even if they haven't had a previous visa. In addition, people who are living here in the UAE are renewing a previous visa that expired less than 48 months ago, and they're applying for the same type of visa. Nothing has changed in their nationality, place of birth, date of birth from their previous visa. They may be eligible for the interview waiver program. And when you go online to schedule your visa interview, you initially go through a set of questions to determine if you may be eligible for interview waiver. Please make sure you have your old visa in front of you so that you're answering the questions correctly. If we get an application for an interview waiver visa and we are reviewing it and we see that it's not eligible, we'll kick it back, and then you'll have to try and schedule an appointment. So the more accurate you are in the first place, the faster we are able to process these. But I understand some people have very urgent travel for medical care or for a scheduled business meeting, for the start date of their classes, and for something like that, interview waiver, which we are processing fairly quickly, but does still take a couple of weeks. For those people who need something urgently, we do offer expedited appointments. The standards between Abu Dhabi and Dubai are the same for approving them. Amy, if you could talk about some of those.
Yep, so an officer will review the request for the expedited appointment.
Mm-hmm.
And they will be able to determine whether your expedite request, based on the date that you're requesting an expedited appointment for, and based on the reason for the urgent travel need, meet our requirements. And if they do, then we are able to schedule appointments based on the appointment availability that we have, but typically much sooner than the typical first-time applicant requesting an appointment at a later date.
When you're filling out the expedited request, you have to be as clear as possible as to why you need it, by what date you need to be in the United States, and if you travel frequently for work, what dates you cannot come in for your interview, because we are getting tons of these requests every day, and we don't have the time to keep going back and forth with people who don't fill things out correctly in the first place. So what you need to do is give us all the information up front and we can assist. Now, not everybody is going to be found eligible for an expedited appointment, and if that is what happens, you still keep the appointment date that you originally scheduled, but there is no appeal on this, and sending an email about it will not, you won't have a response to it, because we've explained on the website exactly how this process works. So just make sure you are correct and clear up front first time.
Additionally, if your expedited appointment request is denied, you are still free to check the website frequently and look for open appointment slots that are earlier than your scheduled appointment. We are opening up more slots frequently, and we're hoping to get applicants in those slots so that we can see the maximum number of applicants that we can and get you traveling.
Exactly. People are constantly having to cancel their own appointments and reschedule as other things come up. So checking daily, you will be surprised at how frequently you can actually get a better date for the appointment that you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was actually a question that Neha Yassar sent in. How long does it actually take to get an appointment? And if you go online now to get the next available B1, B2 appointment, it's going to be quite some time out. I suggest you take it anyway, and then as my colleagues were saying, check back frequently as we are filling our empty positions, and as we're adding efficiencies, and as we review what we're able to do every day, we're adding appointments constantly. So there's a good chance that you will be able to get something earlier. Another question came in from someone about F1 visas, and yes, F1 visas are also part of our expedited visa class. If you are an F1 student with an upcoming date of start for your program, also please send us an expedited appointment request, and we will certainly take a look at it and approve it if we can, if it falls within our criteria.
Indeed, and please remember to include the start date of your program and the date at which you are supposed to report into the U.S. for that program as well, so that we can best time to suit your needs.
Currently, for both posts, we have open appointments for students starting in March 2023. So if your program date is before then, you can schedule for any date in the future, even if it's after your program start date. And as Amy explained, submit the expedite request with the actual details of your travel. So we're working hard to make sure no one misses their program start date.
So Antonio has a question. He's saying, if I submitted all the requirements and I have a visa appointment and it's been scheduled for about a year from now, can I still apply for the interview waiver process, and how do I do that?
Antonio, thank you very much for that question. This is something that we really are encouraging people to do. If they don't have travel that is in the very near term, this is a way you can get your visa faster than waiting a year for your appointment. What you would have to do is go back online to where you scheduled your appointment, and what you need to do is cancel the appointment that you have. I know that's kind of a scary thought, but you can always reschedule if you're not eligible for IW. Click on the gear icon, select the edit option, and update any of the fields in your application profile and save the changes. And when it says any of the fields in your application profile, that means the questions that you had to fill out before you scheduled your appointment. So if you are a resident in the UAE, if your previous visa that you are renewing was issued after you turned 14 years old. The reason that we'll ask that question is because we need to have your fingerprints on file in order to waive the interview. And if we don't have them, you will have to come in. And if you were under 14 for your previous visa, we did not catch your fingerprints. There are also some other questions in here, so please have your visa in front of you when you are going through these. And at the end of it, it will give you the option for interview waiver. You can join in that way.
Thank you for that. And just a quick reminder, if you're joining us today, here we're talking about B1, B2 tourist visas and business visas. We're getting a lot of questions on immigrant visas and other type of visa classes. That's not what we're talking about today, but feel free to send us an email to one of our emails if you have specific questions about other types of issues. Today, as I said, it's a B1, B2 visa travel. And somebody was, Oxygen Fashion is asking, is there a problem with the type of passport, and does the type of passport affect acceptance or rejection? And no, it does not. Anybody with any nationality can apply for a visa, if that's what you're asking. I wasn't quite sure what the question is, but no, the visa process is the same for everyone. So you can put in a visa appointment request, come for your interview, and go from there, and we'll adjudicate it based on what we see there. So it doesn't matter what passport you have.
And I think to follow up on that, thank you to Oxygen Fashion for bringing this up. One thing that people don't seem to realize all the time is that we don't have control entirely about the visa validity. Visa validity, the maximum that is allowable is determined by the Department of Homeland Security, and it is based on the principle of reciprocity, which is what is required by Congress. So basically, if an American citizen applies for a visa for another country, and that other country will give the American citizen a 10-year visa, then we would do the same for citizens of that country who are applying for a US visa. So there are some countries where we are only able to give those nationals a single entry 3-month visa. It is based on what is available for US citizens. That's the only criteria for that. We understand that that's not the easiest way to travel. So if you are from one of those countries, Syria, Sudan, Iran, and you're applying for a B1, B2 visa for travel that is more than 3 months in the future, make sure to tell the visa officer at your interview that you are traveling in the future, and we can work with you to make sure you get the visa for when you want to travel. Please keep scheduling your interviews sufficiently in advance though. The further in advance you do it, the better.
And if you have questions on what the visa validity is for your country, for your passport, you can go to our website at www.travel.state.gov, and there is a whole wealth of information on fees, visa validities, and other pressing questions you might have.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so maybe we can take this opportunity to talk a little bit about what B1, B2 travel requires. What is it that you know we're looking for when you're applying? Lots of people are asking, how can I get this visa? And it's pretty straightforward. All we really ask from you is that you have your passport and you have your application, and then when you come to the interview, that you tell us what your purpose of travel is. Tell it to us straightforwardly. How are you going to pay for it? What are you planning to do? How long are you going to stay? Can you think of anything else that we need? Obviously, one of the things, and this was a question that was sent in before the session started, is I was rejected without a clear reason for a B1, B2 application. Can you tell me what went wrong? And it's not without a reason. The reason is, as you may or may not know, the US visa law states that anybody who's applying for a B1, B2 visa is presumed to be an immigrant until they are able to establish in front of a US consular officer at the time of the interview that they are not an immigrant going to the US, to stay and to work. So that is what we're looking for during the interview, which can be very quick and very short, so be ready for that. But you need to make your case. You need to tell the officer why you're going, what the purpose is, why it makes sense, and what will bring you home after your brief trip to the United States. Can you think of anything else that, but I think that's the main reason. The reason you get refused most often is if you do not overcome the presumption of immigrant intent. This is clause 214B, everybody will be familiar with that. We handed out this written explanation of it, and that means that you were unable to demonstrate at the time of the interview that you were going to return home after your visit.
Just one thing quickly from Q_luxurious asking about speeding up appointments for people for tourism who've already booked their hotel and flight. That is not a reason that will expedite an appointment. We are still overwhelmed by demand and have to prioritize those issues that are most urgent. But what you can do is check frequently to see if there's an appointment date that better fits your travel schedule. As we had said earlier, appointments are opening up frequently. I know that's not the best answer that we can give to you, but right now, as we're still working back from what COVID did, we have to keep humanitarian, medical, and significant business travel, as well as students, as our priorities.
And as we were saying, as we're able to, we will add more appointments and get everybody traveling again. We want you to go to the United States. We want you to see our beautiful country. And so it's we're all pulling on the same string here. So it's not that we're doing it out of any mean reasons. We're just simply not able to because of some staffing limitations that we have. And we will try to do our best to address this. Here's a quick question from Husam KH. Is B1, B2 for all Syrian nationality a 3 months visa, or is it case by case? So that goes back to what Kristen was saying about reciprocity. You can check on travel.state.gov the reciprocity for your nationality's visa. So I do believe that Syrians are 1 entry 3 months no matter what. So and generally also the officers will give you the maximum available. If you qualified, you qualified. There's very few reasons why we would limit visa validity. So again, this is something that is handled between countries due to reciprocity. We have no leeway to change that and give you more than is is agreed to based on reciprocity.
Agreed.
But thanks for that question.
And those reciprocity agreements can also change. Sometimes visa validities are extended, sometimes they are shortened. So your best bet, if you think that it has changed for your nationality, is to look at travel.state.gov to know exactly what to expect.
Exactly. Should we look at some of the appointment or questions that we received?
Yes, absolutely. Like one of the most frequent questions that maybe we can address first is on the administrative processing. That is something that is fretful for many. So maybe we can take a few minutes to talk about that.
So this is something where we're not able to give a very specific answer. It is a process that is entirely dependent upon that specific situation. And while the majority of special or administrative processing cases are closed within 30 days, the statistics are available also on travel.state.gov. Some do take longer. We see what your travel date is for all of these, and we do our best to make sure that we're able to finish the processing of your application before your intended travel date. But that is not always the case, so that is one reason why we tell people not to purchase plane tickets or commit any, to make any unrefundable reservations, because we cannot guarantee the issuance of the visa in time for what you want to do. We do get a lot of emails from people asking for updates on their cases, and while I understand that people want to know what is going on, I really want to reassure you, we are actively working on all of these. We're actively monitoring all of these. As soon as one is completed, we reach out to you within a couple of days to say that we are completed and here are the next steps. So please, this is very important for us too. We don't want people to have to wait a very long time. And when we're able to keep moving with one, we're emailing you straight away.
And please check your spam folders. Sometimes
Yes.
if you're receiving an email from the embassy or the consulate, it may not go to your inbox directly. So if you haven't heard for a while, it may be good to check your spam folder as well. We do reach out, but we don't have the capacity to continually reach out. The burden is on sort of both of us to do our respective parts.
And so if you did not give us the correct email address when you applied, or if your email address has changed, reach out to us in Dubai. It's at usvisadubai@state.gov to let us know that you still have an application under administrative processing, but your contact information has changed. We'll update your case with that, so that way we're able to be in contact with you.
And if you have an application in Abu Dhabi and you're looking to update our contact information for you on your application, you can email us at abudhabiniv@state.gov.
And I know Danny just said this, but just a reminder, I'm seeing some questions about immigrant visas. Today's discussion is entirely on B1, B2 non-immigrant visas. We will have a live stream at some point to discuss immigrant visas, but it's not the subject for today.
Right. But we do have a question from Timmy Superstar. How long does it take after your interview to get your visa? So that is a really good question, and it depends a little bit on the urgency of your travel, but generally, if you came to us and had your interview and the officer told you that the visa is approved, what happens is that more likely than not, we will print the visa the next business day, and then put it in the mail with M-Post the same day or the day after. So you should have it within 3 or 4 days, a week at the most, if everything goes according to plan, if there's no holidays or anything in there. So if you are applying during a holiday season, it may take a couple of extra days, but generally that is what we do. We try to get them out of the door as quickly as we can. Now, if you came in and you have super urgent travel, there may be ways we can arrange for you to come and pick up the visa, but generally the process of mailing it back is really fast and really safe, so that's how long it takes. And there was a question from Mbaha89 about what if my last visa was issued in another country? Can I still apply by mail for interview waiver processing?
Yes, as long as you are physically present here in the UAE. You cannot submit it if you are actually physically present in another country.
But yes, if you're applying for the same visa, same type, and none of your sort of biographical information, name, date of birth, place of birth if those are all the same on your last visa and your current application, you are free to apply through the interview waiver program. If we do need to contact you for any follow-up, we will do that, and it's still faster than going through the traditional appointment route. So we really encourage you to utilize the interview waiver program.
We have a very good question from God's very own. If you have a sponsor for a B1, B2, do you have to bring a bank statement or documents with you? And I think that's a really good time to talk about documents versus the interview.
So for a B1, B2 visa, there is nothing that is required by regulation or law beyond the passport, the application, and your photo. The consular officer, though, in the course of the interview may decide they need to ask for other documentation. They're not going to refuse you because they didn't see documentation or because they wanted something that you didn't bring. They will tell you, and then you would be able to supply it before they make their final decision. In the case of someone who is sponsoring you, I without knowing the specific situation, I can't go into too many specific details. However, it's through the interview and through the DS-160 application that we really make our determination on things. So if you are not paying for your own travel and it's not clear from the application how you would be able to pay for it, explain it to the officer at the interview.
All right. There have been a couple of questions to do with U.S. citizenship and travel. And so somebody was asking, if my son is a U.S. citizen, how can he get a visa to go to the States? No. If you're a U.S. citizen, you need to get a U.S. passport. We cannot issue visas to U.S. citizens. So if your child was born in the United States, they're a U.S. citizen, come apply, go on the website, make an appointment for a passport, and we'll adjudicate the passport, and he or she can then travel on the U.S. passport. The same as if you're an American citizen and you had a child overseas, chances are that there may be a claim to U.S. citizenship. So we will not be able to issue visas to anyone who has a claim to U.S. citizenship until that is resolved. So most likely we will ask you to, again, apply for a consular report of birth abroad or a first passport for the child to see where we're at. Again, we cannot issue visas to U.S. citizens. So if there's any question, any doubt, contact us on Dubai or Abu Dhabi, acs@state.gov, and our ACS teams will help you with figuring this out.
And if you have any questions about applying for a consular report of birth abroad, we have a brand new video that has just been released last week demonstrating the pretty straightforward process on how to do that. It should be on all of the U.S. Mission to UAE's social medias.
Mm-hmm. And that's a really good time to also make a plug for the other two videos that we put out earlier this year. One on how to book an expedited visa appointment. Go look. It should be on the Instagram and YouTube. You can take a look, and our staff walks you through the process in case you have questions. And same for ACS, American Citizen Services appointments. There's a video on that as well. So you can go and take a look at those. Makes it super easy to apply for those. All right. There was another question that came in on, again, I think we talked about this before too. If you're dual citizen or you have two different passports, where can you apply for a B1, B2 visa?
You should apply where you are living. The specific question was about somebody who's an Armenian, Iranian, dual national living in Iran. We don't have a U.S. embassy in Iran, so Iranian nationals are able to apply at any other location. If someone is another nationality but living in Iran, they can apply at any U.S. embassy or consulate where appointments are available. So you don't have to just go to the country of your nationality. It's more dependent upon where you reside as opposed to what your nationality is. But it looks like we are out of time. Thank you all very much. One last thing, we weren't talking immigrant visas today. It'll be a future one, so please join us when that is scheduled.
And in the meantime, you can reach us via email on US Visa Dubai at state.gov and Abu Dhabi NIV at state.gov for other B1, B2 related questions. Thank you for your attention today. It was great to have you here and hope to see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. There's a bunch of hearts at the end.
Oh,
There
to
was-
visit my sick brother.
Yeah, there was somebody right at the end of when should my father play again? He's an admin costing